So you first or me, Julian?
I can go first, see how rusty I am.
So I'm not sure I heard that. You first or me?
Yeah, I'll go first.
Okay.
Cool. So I did my beeps this morning, and so actually kind of late. It ended just before this meeting, but the first one went off at 11:18 a.m. I was on the phone with my with a client
Hmm.
for work, but I was kind of distracted and I opened up my Venmo app. So I was looking at my phone while while listening to my client speak, and I was looking at the Venmo app, specifically at my sister's face. She pops up as like a recent person I sent money to.
Hmm.
So in terms of what was going on in my head at the moment, honestly, I felt a little distracted, like I wasn't quite listening to the person on the phone, and I didn't have much in my brain. I just kind of mindlessly opened the Venmo app, and um, when the beep went off, I wasn't even really registering the text on the app. I was looking at my sister's face, looking at the photo that was in her profile.
Okay, so you're looking at her photo in the Venmo app, photo in the profile. Are you noticing any specific thing about the face, or is it more general?
Um, yeah, she was wearing this colorful hat that I really like. It's from a brand called Skita, but they have like really colorful patterns, and so it was like blue, white, pink, and I think black was the pattern. So I was specifically looking at like both the hat shape and also like the colors of the hat, and also the background. It was a winter photo, so it was kind of like a bluish background. Um, that yeah, I was that's kind of what I was taking in the most, more than her, I guess, facial expression or anything like that.
Okay, so the hat in the background,
Yeah, and
uh,
her sunglasses were bright blue as well. Um,
glasses. Was it more about the hat, more about the background, or like a mix, or is it kind of all of it together?
um, I would say I would say more like 60-40, like hat to overall picture. Like I was kind of focusing on the hat, but it's hard not to see the whole picture when you're looking at it. So um, it wasn't that I didn't consciously have any thoughts like, oh, that's a nice hat or anything like that. It was more so just my eye. That's where my eye was.
Okay.
It felt mindless in that moment.
And so this colorful blue, white, pink, black pattern,
Yeah.
uh, you say what kind of pattern it was? Was that not
It's
important?
kind of like a 70s swirl, like thick lines that become thin lines that are kind of swirling around with flowers as well.
Okay. And was it, were you noticing anything even specific about this, like more of the flowers and more of the swirls, or is that just too much, too, are we getting too specific there?
Um, Probably too specific. I was also, I can't remember what it, I, like upon reflection, I can't remember the shape of the hat, but um, yeah, I think it was more of the color and the general pattern rather than like
Mhm.
zeroing in on anything specific like the flowers or anything like
Yeah.
that. It was more of like, yeah, just
Okay.
focused on the general color and
And you say
pattern.
now that you can't remember the shape, but you mentioned that at the time, like the shape was also part of it.
Yeah, basically there's this style of hat that I think is really silly, and it's very big in it's very popular in Jackson Hole, and I think part of me was trying to see if my sister was wearing that hat, and I couldn't remember if like I think I was trying to work it out, but the photo's so small that I don't even think I was fully registering. I think it was something that was kind of, that felt on the back burner. But the reason why I would even be drawn to the shape would be because probably a little bit of judgment. Like, why is my sister wearing this? Because I think it's a little bit ridiculous. But I think the definitely the color, first and foremost, then the shape, then the background was kind of where my focus was. Color and pattern, shape, background is how I would describe my overall focus.
And you think the trying to work out if it was a specific type of hat or thinking it's a bit ridiculous, do you think that's there at this moment at all?
Not in this moment, no.
Just back burner? Okay. So you're focused at the hat in this picture.
So can I interrupt here, because I don't think she's focused on the hat at all. I think she's tried to tell us pretty consistently that she's focused on the colors.
Okay.
The colors which happen to be of a hat or happen to be of the sunglasses. And we've been focusing on the hat as if it was the hat and the sunglasses that she was focused on. But those are very different things. It's not. So we can ask now, but it might be sort of water over the dam. Does it seem to you like you're looking at a hat which happens to be blue and pink and white and whatever, or does it look like you're looking at the blue and pink and white and whatever that happens to be of a hat?
I think, I don't know if this answers the question properly, but I have seen this photo of my sister before with this color combination, and so it, in my mind, might be less about the hat and more about the colors and me registering, oh, that's a photo of my sister based on this color combinations. That, I don't know if that makes sense. But I would say color first and foremost. And that helped me register that was a profile of my sister. And the hat was obviously on her head and part of it, but I would say maybe the color was probably what I was registering or focused on the most.
Okay, so more about the color. Would it then make sense to ask more about the colors? Like when you say pink, is it like a fuchsia or like a lavender? I guess that's good.
Baby pink, kind of a charcoal black, turquoisey blue, and then kind of a creamy white.
Okay. Do you have more questions about this part, Russ?
I think I'm good, and I'm not sure there was any other part, but we can find out about that.
I guess I didn't think so either, because you mentioned the call and the voice on the phone. That was kind of like back burner.
I was not really paying attention, to be perfectly honest. Yeah.
So was there anything else besides, just this photo?
I could see, obviously looking at the app, I can see the white background with sort of, I could almost sketch it out of where the text was sitting, but the text in that moment wasn't in focus, and I wasn't actively reading anything. So it almost was like white background, kind of black text blobs that were illegible, and then the photo, which is where the primary focus was.
Okay, so mostly focused on the photo. And it's like a little circle thing?
Mm-hmm. Profile. Super small at the top of the page.
I'm good on this. Russ?
So what I would say about it is that to my ear, and if we had asked different kinds of questions, I would be more or less confident about this, I suppose, but it's not about the photo, it's not about the hat, it's not about the sister, it's about the colors. I'm seeing colors and shapes, maybe, colors and shapes. And that's what's central in my experience. And I can say, well, yeah, it's a photo, and yeah, it's a Venmo app, and yeah, it's my sister, and yeah, the hat's crazy, and whatever. But that's secondary, it seems to me, to what Kerry's experience was, which at this moment was pretty straightforwardly sensory.
Mm.
It's interesting. I mean, I don't disagree with that. I guess it's hard to say based on my questioning because I did ask in a way that made it seem like, oh, the shape in the background was also, part of this more holistic thing than just the colors. I definitely agree that the colors are super important.
I think if you were to replay the beginning of what she said about this, I think the power of her description is in the colors. She has to speak in English, and so she's going to say it's the hat, it's the it's whatever, but
Interesting.
I think it's about the color.
I guess we will be replaying later. I don't disagree, so it'll be interesting to see. Should we move on to number 2?
Number 2.
Okay, this one happened very shortly thereafter, so I was actually still on the phone. This was at 11:20 a.m., so 2 minutes later. I was still talking to my client. This makes me sound like I really was not paying attention, but I really was not paying attention. I was I was still not listening really to them at all. And I had my hair was down, and I was holding my hair and splitting my split ends. And one particular hair was lighter than all the others, which usually means that it's more dead. So I was very focused on that piece of hair. And I was still listening, and I could get the gist of what he was explaining. He was explaining a process of downloading a PDF for this email marketing thing that we were working on, but I was not, I got the theme of what he was saying. I was not super intently listening to his words. But that in that moment, my hair was very close to my face, so I was very focused on that one individual strand of hair.
And so is this a visual focus or a tactile focus? Am I feeling it or am I seeing it?
I would say both, but it felt more like seeing. I wasn't yet pulling the hair apart, so it didn't feel like a tactile experience. I was holding my hair and very intently looking at one singular strand of hair. So I felt like I was seeing more than feeling.
And am I seeing the lightness of it or the deadness of it?
Kind of, that's hard to say because with my hair, lightness implies deadness in my mind. I probably noticed it over other strands because it was lighter in color, but to me that also might have been me zeroing in because it was dead, if that makes sense.
So what I guess I'm trying to figure out is whether for you it seems like I'm looking at my dead hair, which happens to be light, or does it seem I'm looking at my light colored hair, which means to me that it's dead?
I think it's the latter.
Which was I'm looking at
Light
my
colored
light
hair.
colored hair.
Which
Then implies that it's
correct.
dead. And so I'm happy with that portion of it. Julian, you got any questions?
No.
And then I know what the guy's saying. And is that present to me right at the moment of this beep, or is that sort of just in general in this conversation, I'm processing it enough to know what he's talking about. But at this moment, I'm totally into there.
At this moment, I was very into the hair. Yeah.
And so is this moment then similar to the previous moment, which, and at least in my head, was mostly about color? That was about color pink and blue and white or whatever. This is about color light. But I'm attending to the color. I'm primarily.
I would say that and texture here, not in how I'm feeling, but the lighter hair also kind of becomes a bit frizzier. And so also noticing that standing out as opposed to the smooth other strands.
Okay. So the sensory characteristics of both include color, and this one has to do with the frizziness, I guess, and the other had to do with the shapeness of it, which is also a sort of a visual characteristic. But in both cases, I'm into the visual characteristics of this thing. Whatever it is that's going on with me, whether it's hair or cap or whatever, I'm into the visual characteristics.
Yeah.
I think I'm good.
Okay. I'm good on it too. Russ, your mic switched back to the webcam mic, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it sounds like... Do you hear the high-pitched, Julian?
Yeah, it sounds like a tea kettle going on.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's way better.
Yeah.
So now which mic, can you tell which mic I'm using? Am I using?
Yeah, whatever you just tapped. First one you tapped.
Okay, that's
Yeah,
fine.
that sounds way better.
So that might explain what happened here. I bumped the cable, and so it could be that this cable is defective, which is why I had a problem with the audio
Okay.
in the first place. It's plugged into my computer, which is sitting on the floor, and I tapped it a little bit ago.
Always these darn cables.
So I need to get a better, newer, another cable for this mic,
Okay.
maybe.
So for now, just no more tapping. Then we're good.
All right. On to number 3.
Beep number 3 was at 11:57. I was blow drying my hair, and it's my birthday today, so I'm having thank you. I'm having friends over tonight, and so I was imagining in my living room, which is 2 rooms over that way. I was imagining the living room, and I was imagining the friends who I invited to come over. And I imagined myself saying, like I was in the middle of this thought. I think it was towards the end of the sentence that the beep went off. But basically, 30 is not that bad. It's 29 that sucked. Was what I was imagining myself saying to the group that I invited. So it was both, I could hear my own voice, and I was hearing it as though well, it was coming from me, but it sat like I was imagining myself saying it to other people. So it was almost as if I was like in the room hearing that as well. And I would say I wrote 40% focus on this. So, I'm still like physically present, but I had both, I guess, a visual and an auditory thought.
So visual and auditory thought thing. 30 is not bad as 29. That sucks. and you can hear it. It's like those exact words, and not just the concept of this. Right?
Yeah, no, it was those words in my voice.
In your voice.
That I was hearing.
And is it more like to use this tape recorder metaphor of if you're speaking into a tape recorder versus you press play and play it back?
In this instance, it was definitely a press play. It actually felt like I was replaying a memory, but that memory hadn't happened yet. It was almost like I was predicting the memory, if that makes sense. So I was hearing my voice as opposed to speaking it.
Okay. So more, hearing it rather than speaking it. Is there something else about it that makes it kind of more kind of memory-like, or is that just talking mostly about this voice?
I guess it felt... No, I guess to me, memories are both visual and auditory, so that's maybe why it felt like a memory. Like I felt it was so detailed in my mind that it felt like I had seen it before, but I hadn't seen it, if that makes sense.
Okay,
But
so
yeah.
it was detailed. So, okay, I'm going to stay a bit more on the voice thing. 30 is not that bad, it's 29 that sucked. Would you say this is your normal voice, normal pitch and tone, or is there anything different about it?
Normal. It's definitely my voice. It's my normal pitch and tone. I would say sometimes when I'm speaking in a group of people, I speak a little bit louder or more animated if I'm telling a story. And so this voice was a little bit more, I kind of was saying it in a tone like I was cracking a joke, like a hint of humor in it, I guess.
It's a bit louder, jokier tone. And then for the visual part, friends in a living room, could you describe that?
Yeah. So I have 2 couches in my living room and a coffee table in the middle. I was looking at the couch on the right-hand side, which is a white couch. I couldn't see the other couch. And so it was kind of like I was standing in the room at that angle. So I was, there's 3 people sitting down in front of me. My friend Sam, my friend Nora, my friend Greta. And then to my right, I knew there was someone sitting in a chair there, but I'm not sure which friend, because I have like 8 people coming over, so I'm not sure which friend was there, but kind of more of an idea of a presence there. I was more focused on the couch, the window, the rug, the coffee table. There's cake and drinks on the coffee table, the drinks that I'm going to buy tonight for everyone. And everyone's kind of dressed how they stereotypically dress. Sam's in a hat that he always wears. Nora's wearing this gold chain necklace that she always wears. Greta's in workout clothes. So those 3 are very in focus, but I think the idea in my mind was that there's other people sitting on the other couch and the chair next to me, but I was only looking at those 3.
Okay. And was all of this detail present at this moment right before the beep? Or was it maybe that over time, at one point you noticed the chain, at one point you noticed something else?
No, all this detail was present. I would say weirdly, the most detailed thing in this entire visual was actually the rug, which is like we just recently purchased it, kind of like a patterned rug. It's like cream, blue, and orange. So the rug was in the most detail, the white couch was in the most detail, and the outfits were in most detail, but their faces weirdly, even though I know them, but their faces weren't super in focus. But yeah, all of this detail was present at the moment of the beep, but I would say the most detailed item was the rug.
The most detail was the rug. And was that mostly about the creamy blue orangeness of the rug, or the pattern that happened to be creamy blue and orange, or something else?
I think more than anything actually was the pattern, because this was, actually I don't know why, but it's kind of an intricate pattern. And that was kind of, I would say, like I was most drawn to that visually, with color, I guess, being an important part of the pattern.
Was something about this pattern standing out at the moment? Or?
It's kind of a vintage style, and it looks worn, which I like. I really like this rug, which is probably why I don't know if that's why, but that might be why my brain was focusing on it because it was a whole discussion with my housemates of which rug we were going to get, and it took forever, and we finally bought it. So it, to me, makes sense that my brain was drawn there, but I don't know if that's why.
If you describe the pattern, would it help us like understand your experience at this moment?
It's the style of rug that you would expect to see in like an old style library, I guess. Kind of has these repeating swirly borders almost, and then I don't know how to describe it. I actually should know this. I should know the visual language better than I do because I'm a designer, but I'm struggling. It's like if you picture, you know, those red and like cream rugs that you would see at the base of like a piano in an old home.
I'm picturing something, but it might be different from what you're picturing.
I'm trying to. I'm really struggling with my words. Vintage rug.
I don't think we should probably spend too much time trying to describe the
Okay,
rug. I
it's
think
just it's
more your experience that we're trying to get at, which I'm gathering it's about the colorful pattern.
yeah, it's like it's a repetitive pattern with intricate shapes is how I would describe it.
Okay. Yeah, I'd agree. That's probably as much detail as you need. So, I mean, you said earlier that 40% of your experience was this. That meant the image and the voice together as part of this?
Yes.
And would you say that the rest of your experience, that the rest of the 60% was nothing, or was something else? Or was...
I think I just felt more present. Usually when I have these visual thoughts, I'm a little bit more immersed. And this one, I was blow drying my hair. I could see my reflection in the mirror. I could feel my hands holding the dryer, and I felt physically more present in this instance. So it just was a smaller, less, I guess, captivating thought.
Okay. So you have this image, or image and voice kind of combined. Imagined scenario, I guess. But it doesn't mean you're completely pulled out of what you're doing. Like you're still blow drying your hair. And is that more present than like how before I call your attention to it now? Like you're sitting in a chair, where you might not have been, paying attention to the sensation of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Is it more present than that, or around the level?
I would say the most present I felt was almost in my upper body, so everything I was doing up here, I probably wasn't registering like my feet standing on the ground and stuff like that. So right now, currently speaking to you sitting in this chair, I'm 100% present, but I would say in that moment when the beep went off, probably slightly less present.
Wait, slightly less.
Compared to now.
Slightly, by present you mean the physical sensation of what you're physically doing?
Yeah.
So less than now. I think I bungled the chair thing because I think I meant more like before I called your attention to it. And then once I call your attention to it, you might feel very present.
Yeah.
But the idea was supposed to be that before I called your attention to that, it was more automatic.
Yeah.
I think I might have confused things.
That's okay. I think typically, like, in moments like this, when I'm visualizing something, I'm just less present than I probably should be in some moments.
Okay. Because I was curious because you described it as kind of like a small, not so captivating image, or I forget what words you used, but you also described like a lot of detail about it.
Mm,
Um, so I'm not sure quite what my question was. I guess I was trying to reconcile that a bit.
yeah. For me, I literally have like size to visual thoughts. So sometimes when I'm thinking of a landscape, it goes all the way across the width of my sight. But this one was almost like I was looking at a weird square photograph of, or video, I guess, of a scene. The edges are always blurred, like it's never like a crisp line, but it's just overlaid over my physical sight. And depending on how captivating or, I'm not sure what the right word is, immersive it is, it's either bigger or smaller. And so in this case, it was still very detailed, but smaller. It took up a smaller percentage of my sight.
Okay. So detailed, but not taking up the whole peripheral surround
Yeah.
immersive vision. So, Russ, do you have more questions on this?
I do have a couple. So I'm gathering that the 40% is I'm not totally immersed in that.
Yes.
Is that correct? And now I want to know whether the smallness of it is metaphorical or actual. Am I actually seeing a small scene that doesn't occupy my whole visual field? Or is that sort of a metaphorical way of saying, well, I wasn't totally into this?
Mm. I think it's literal based on past experience, and comparing this one to those past visual thoughts. It feels literal, but now it's hard to tell.
Right. Well, and that's good as far as I'm concerned. So this is exactly why we have to do this kind of study more than one day. So right now, I would say we're raising the question whether this is one way to understand this is, at the moment of the beep, I was seeing a relatively small, in a relatively small portion of my visual field, this detailed scene of the party tonight. That's one way of understanding it. And another way of understanding it is, well, I was imagining this scene in a sort of a visual way, but it wasn't occupying me totally. It was, and I think today we probably can't answer that question, but we can marvel at it today and think, well, maybe later on some other sample, tomorrow or whenever, then we would be able to say this is a metaphorical, or really it is a characteristics of my scenes, that my seeings, my inner seeings, that sometimes they're little and sometimes they're big.
Is it bad to compare to past beeps?
And there's no problem with comparing to past
Okay.
beeps.
Because the way, like, I came to 40% based off of, I don't know if you remember this one beep, but I forgot that I had a banana in my hand. And I was chewing the banana, but I didn't know until the beep went off, and I tried to grab the thing, and I shoved the banana into the beeper. And so by comparison to that beep I was so in my thoughts, I was so in my head. That would be to me like 100% in my brain, whereas this, by comparison, felt way less than that. I was so much more aware of what I was doing, my physical surroundings. To me, that also makes the thought feel smaller, but I don't know if that's actually metaphorical or actually a visually smaller thought.
Well, I'd say let's leave that as an open question, and maybe we'll figure it out somewhere down the road. I did have another question about, so this scene had you speaking in it.
Yes.
You were saying something about it's not 30, it's 29 or whatever. And are you visually in this scene as well?
No.
And then you said at the outset something like it was more like I was hearing myself say this to the people than speaking
Yes.
it. And I guess what I'm interested in, there's a visual perspective in this scene. The couch is over there, and I'm looking at it over there. And do I hear it as if from the same perspective? As if I were, so it's as if I were standing in the room saying that to these people, and I see them and hear it in the same way?
The best way I can describe it is it was almost like I had experienced, sorry, that was super loud. I had experienced this whole scene holding a video camera up. So it's from my perspective, it's my voice, but it's as though I'm speaking over the video camera and like recording the reactions almost. So I'm not physically in the scene because I don't see my body when I'm looking out. But it felt in this scenario, felt like I was hearing my voice, not speaking it. Like it didn't feel like, I have a lot of thoughts where I'm talking to myself. This did not feel like that. It felt like I was hearing a recording of me telling everyone 30's not that bad. Does that make sense?
So what I'm gathering is that my primary experience is of me telling these folks 30's not that bad.
Yeah.
And I hear it and I see it.
Yes.
And that's all sort of one
Yes.
piece. So it's not like I'm videoing this and then putting on a sound overlay.
No.
It's that I'm there speaking
Yeah.
it. Okay. Then I think I'm good.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions, Julian?
No. Actually, yes. To get back to, so when you said 40% and it's small in a way, small image, I mean, might be metaphorical or literal. But that doesn't mean that the other 60% of your experience is blow drying and whatever, right? It doesn't mean that's more in your experience than the image. It's more about saying that this image compared to some more intense images that are more absorbing.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, I think 40% is almost a little bit misleading. That's me trying to say like the size of it, but I was probably, like I definitely think I was more focused on the thought than I was like physically drying my hair, so then that would make the 40% inaccurate. Yeah, I think 40% might be misleading because it was a smaller thought, which is why I said 40%, but it was still detailed, and that's what I was focused on. I still was present, so it wasn't entirely immersive, but that was a good way of clarifying that.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't trying to gotcha or anything. It was
No,
just
yeah, that makes sense.
understanding that it was more compared to.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm good on this beep.
Me too. Number 4.
Okay, number 4, I forgot to write down the time. Sorry.
No problem.
I said, no, you. Okay, I was working in Illustrator, which is an Adobe product that I use, and I was singing a song out loud, so I was playing music and singing along. And this one I'm gonna have a hard time describing. What I wrote was, I realized, basically, in Illustrator, if the text is outlined, it's an object, and I realized I needed to rewrite some text in a file, but it wasn't. This thought feels very vague. Like I didn't hear a voice saying, "You need to create a new text box," and I wasn't visualizing the next step, it was kind of more like a vague light bulb moment. And I say light bulb not actually as a visual, just as like a metaphor. Just like I realized, oh, this is why this wasn't working previously, and now I need to create a new text box in this file. But there wasn't any actual words to those thoughts or anything like that. This one was hard to describe.
So which is the most central to you, if that's a reasonable question to ask? The singing along or the recognition that I've got to rewrite?
The recognition was definitely... I felt present in the task that I was trying to achieve within this file.
And is it the task or I need to rewrite this portion of it?
Rewrite this portion of it.
And,
Or is it
would you say...
or is it the reason why you have to rewrite? Oh, it's an object when I'm blah, blah, blah.
I think it was... So leading up to this, I couldn't figure out why I couldn't edit this file. And it was the realization was, oh, I couldn't edit it because it's an object, and I need to resolve that, I need to create a new text box. So I think what we should focus on is the realization that it was an object, not the second half. I need to create a new text box to solve it. It was the realization, oh, this is why. This is the issue that I'm having.
So I'm understanding, I'm realizing,
Yes.
noticing something, that this is the wrong kind of object, I guess.
Mhm.
So, And that, I'm gathering, is quite entirely central to me.
Yes.
Like 100%
Yeah.
central. This is what's going on with me. I'm using Illustrator. My eyeballs are aimed at Illustrator. I'm singing along, but all that stuff is just sort of happening. And what's entirely present to me is this realization that, oh, that's an object.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. And that is not in words. There's no words that this is an object and I need a text box. There's no word object, no word text.
Correct.
Okay. And yet there's a recognition that this is the wrong.
Yes. Which I didn't even know I could think like that. But I normally always have words to go along with it, but this time I did not.
Okay. Then I think I'm good.
So it's about it being an object when it's not supposed to be an object, right? Because text boxes are different from objects.
Yes.
So, okay, if that's an object. And the consequences of that, so I need to create a new text box, are not there yet, or are implied, or
I think at the moment that the beep went off, it was the realization. And so, like, very shortly thereafter, I knew that what this means is I have to create a new text box. But I think for the purpose of just analyzing what was, coming at me, or what was in my mind at the moment of the beep, it was this realization, oh, it's an object.
okay. And playing music and singing, is it there a little bit, or really just more background, kind of just like how sitting in a chair now is background? It's something that's going
Yeah,
on.
I would say background. Like I mean, I know the song that I was singing, and I know what the part I was singing, but it wasn't part of, like, it was just kind of happening, I guess. Not a huge part of the experience.
Not a huge part, or not at all? Like, right now, when I call your attention to it, you might be feeling like your sweater on you, you know.
Mm.
But before I did that, it might have really just been super back, like, yeah, super back, like more than
I
that, or
I honestly didn't realize I was singing until the beep went off, if that makes sense. Because I had to stop in order to, like, it made me stop, kind of. So, in that sense, it was just sort of happening. Like, I don't think that that was a dominant, if at all, part of my experience.
okay. And I'm good on this too.
Me too.
Okay, beep 5 was at 12:59. I was talking to my housemate saying 30 is the best. um, and looking off kind of at a diagonal, so she was still present, like she was kind of to the left, but I was actually like looking off into space as I said this, and I was a little bit more focused on my living room. And what else did I write? Looking off into space. No visual in my brain. And I guess no conflicting auditory thoughts because I was speaking in that moment in real life. So, yeah, I was saying out loud, 30 is the best, while not quite making eye contact. I was off in an angle, looking at a little bit of her, but mainly the living room.
Anything specific about the living room, or just living room as a whole?
We have this really nice archway that frames the living room, so I was kind of more focused on that, because I like it. But I was just, nothing really, apart from the archway, really was standing out.
Okay. And more about the archway. Any particular detail of the archway, or just archway as a whole?
There's a big exposed piece of wood, so that's, yeah, it's a more natural piece, and so I like it, so I was looking at that.
Anything specific about the wood? I feel like I'm just
No.
but yeah, if ever it's just too much
It's
detail.
like it's a lighter color. The whole room feels really light, and we also get really nice light coming from the living room window. So, I would say, in this, honestly, I keep coming back to like texture and color. Like I was looking at the texture of the wood in the sense that it's not fully finished and it is a natural piece, so it has knots and faults. But then it's also a lighter finish of wood, more of a kind of a yellowy brown. So yeah, I was kind of looking at that.
Okay, so you're looking at the living room, and the main thing is this lighter yellowy wood in the archway, but it's not like you're singularly focused in on it. Like the living room and the roommate is also seen.
So can I ask that question in a little bit of a different order?
Yeah.
So does it make sense to say more, I am looking at this piece of wood, or looking at the archway? Which wood happens to be in the archway, but into the wood.
I think it makes more sense to say I'm looking at the archway.
Okay.
The archway that has a feature of it.
Yes.
Okay. And are there other features of the archway other than the piece of wood, or is it just, I'm seeing the archway and the one feature that sort of stands out is this piece of wood?
It's this, the main feature is the natural piece of wood, but then I think they were trying to be modern when they designed this, and it kind of just looks bad, but there's another piece that comes down on the left-hand side that's really thin slats, and it contrasts with the natural piece of wood. And so when looking at the archway, that's kind of what I take in most about it, is a little bit of clashing styles, and the color, the lightness. Yeah. I don't
And
know if I answered.
is the kind of clashing woodness present at this moment here, or is that more like looking back, knowing this archway, you can describe it like that?
Probably, I'm probably just trying to be detailed in my description. I really was just not zoning out, but I was just looking that way, and that's where my eye is drawn, but I'm still also taking in like the living room, the window, the front door, but it's the archway's first, and
Mm-hmm.
I am drawn to that. Yeah, that style of architecture.
So to amplify Julian's question, I'm still not sure. Am I primarily seeing the archway that has these colors and geometric characteristics, or am I primarily seeing these colors and geometric characteristics of the archway?
First one, I'm primarily seeing the archway that has these colors and
Okay.
characteristics.
Okay. And you're also saying 30 is the best,
Yeah.
and do you experience yourself as saying this, or is it just automatic, something that happens and after the beep you know you said it, but you weren't paying attention?
No, that felt like I was present in my statement there. I was aware that I was saying that. And I was, I think, being intentional with what I was saying.
Okay. And would you say that's more about hearing the sound of it, or producing it, or more about the meaning behind what you're saying, or anything else
Um,
entirely?
I think the meaning, because she was specifically asking, I've been very scared to turn 30, so I think she was sort of checking in. And so it was more the sentiment than hearing my voice or how I was saying it or the tone I was saying. It was like, no, I actually stand by this statement is kind of what I was,
Okay.
yeah.
With the standing by the 30 is good.
Yeah.
Um, would you say there's like an emotion part of it, like feeling that it's good, or is it really more about the meaning part of it, or does that not make any sense to you?
No, I didn't feel like an emotional thing to say. It was more, um, it was more, like, I don't know how to describe this. It was half me, like, saying it to convince myself, maybe. So, but I didn't feel emotional. I was like, no, like, it feels good. But it didn't feel emotional.
Okay. So, like a reassuringness of it, but like not in this strong emotional sense. And could you say between speaking this and seeing the living room, can you give a percentage to how important each was?
Mm. This one, I would say it was more about the sentiment of the words and what I was saying than, like, obviously I'm taking in the visual because I'm looking in that direction, but I wasn't focused too heavily on anything that I was actually looking at. It was more what I was saying, and I guess whether or not I actually believed it.
Yeah. So it's more than just like these words as like a string of words. It's about is there some sense of like whether you believed it or convincing yourself of it? Is that present at this moment to you?
A little bit. It was also, I don't know how to describe this. I think this is a thought around this sentiment, but sometimes I think it's ridiculous when people say like, "Oh, do you feel any different after you're like 29 or you're 30? Like, do you feel different?" So obviously, no, you feel the same, but I actually weirdly feel different on this birthday, and so a part of me saying like 30 is the best was kind of like, no, I actually do feel different. So half of, do I actually believe this? Because it's kind of ridiculous to feel different on your birthday. And then me also thinking, yeah, no, I do. Like, I do feel that.
Okay. So you're saying it, the meaning is there, but it's not like, because at first I wondered if you're being sarcastic or something, but it's not.
No, it was genuine, but I think I was trying to work out, I'm like, no, this is genuine, but also, how is this genuine? Because I was the same person 24 hours ago, but suddenly I've had this thought, or, yeah.
I'm good on this level. Russ, any questions?
Me too. So it's 5 past the hour. Do we have time for one more, or should we be hanging it up here?
Up to you, Kerry.
I just have a call at 3:15, so I've got 10 more minutes.
I've got to leave by then myself. So let's go for it. Number
Cool.
6.
Number 6 was at 1:21. I was talking to my friend Amy on the phone. I was trying to remember, she was saying, like, oh, catch me up on what's going on. And I was saying out loud, did I send you a voice note? And I was trying to remember what I had told her about the previous week. And so even though I was holding my phone, I wasn't actually looking at the phone, but in my brain I was visualizing our text message conversation, and I was trying to recall whether or not I had sent her a voice note, which in this case would be like if I saw the squiggle lines on our text message, which doesn't make sense because I was holding my phone so I could have checked it. But in my brain, I was trying to recall it in my brain, and trying to recall what I said to her, but I couldn't actually read word for word what I had written to her in text. But it was almost like I was looking at my text message conversation with Amy and with slightly blurred eyes, so I could see the structure of the text message conversation, the white background, the gray to blue text messages. I could see her gray text messages in like a thicker blob on the top left, and then my response in blue, in a blue blob, but it's not like I could read word for word what I had written, but I was almost trying to do that to recall what I had previously told her, because I couldn't remember.
So this is an inner visual process. I'm seeing something.
Yes, inner visual. Even though I was physically holding my phone and speaking on the phone, I'm not looking at my physical telephone. I am visualizing my phone.
And do I see these text messages, the outlines of text messages, like clearly, but just what's there is not clear, or is the whole thing sort of blurry?
I would say the text is not clear, but everything else is. So
Okay.
like the shape
So
of
I am for whatever reason intentionally blurring the text, but not blurring the seeing
yes,
of it.
yeah.
Okay. Which I take it, by the way, to be a sort of a skillful way of doing things. I don't know what's there, so I'm going to indicate it in a blurry kind of way, even though I'm clearly doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And is there anything else in my experience other than the seeing of the phone?
I would say the phone in this case is pretty dominant, but
The imaginary.
the imaginary phone, sorry.
The real phone is non-existent as far
I
as
mean,
your
it's-
experience is concerned?
It's in my hand, but I don't even think I'm like fully aware of that, even though I'm on the phone. Visual of the phone, very dominant. I was sitting outside on my front stoop, and so like a little bit of like my physical surroundings were a part of this. Like I see the phone, and then I see yellow leaves and my cement step. But I would say the phone is the primary thing.
Okay. And like primary, are we talking like 90% or
Yeah, here it's 90 because I
51%?
was really trying to get the words to appear. Um,
Okay. And is the trying to get the words to appear, is that part of your experience right at the moment of the beep, or is that this is the task I've set for myself and what I'm experiencing is the seeing of this?
I think the trying is part of it because I was specifically asking her like, did I send you a voice note? What do you know? So I was actively trying like to make the words be clear in my mind so that I could recall what I had told her so I could move forward with the conversation knowing what she already knew.
And so I understand you to be saying at the moment of the beep, did I send you a voicemail, or is that just before the beep?
Just before the beep, I said, did I send you a voice note? And then beep. And when I was saying out loud, did I send you a voice note? I was staring at my imaginary phone, trying to get the words.
Okay. And is the speaking aloud present to you, or are those words just coming out?
Um, I
Like, for example, I'm holding my phone. I'm not paying attention to that. I'm clearly skillfully holding my phone. I'm not dropping
yeah
it. I'm not whacking it into my face or whatever. So I'm doing that. The words can happen the same way. I can skillfully deal with them, but not attend to
yeah.
them. Or I can,
I would say I was less skillfully speaking in this moment. I was speaking, but I don't know if you ever. Sometimes it's like word vomit. You're just like, bah. It was kind of like that. I was just trying to get to the point
so
of understanding how much I needed to tell her or catch her up on, but it wasn't like an active thought or.
so is that to say that these words, did I send you a text message, are more vomiting or rolling out or whatever you want to call that, than is, say, 30 is the best of the previous beat?
Yes, this was less mindful in this instance where I'm saying, did I send you a voice note? That was less mindful than 30 is the best. Felt like I was cued into the sentiment and what those words meant and how I felt about them. Whereas this was like,
Okay.
I'm just trying to get information and blurting out words.
And so does that mean that the blurting out words is just like a gesture? I'm waving my hand or whatever, and it's coming out of me, but I'm not really attending to it at all? Or is this some kind of a continuum where I'm sort of paying attention to what I'm saying?
I would say maybe a little bit. I'm paying attention a little bit more than a gesture, but a lot less than 30 is the best.
Okay, well. So I need to be out of here. This is the end of my time that I've got for today, so thank you very much. And I think we'll be communicating by email what we're going to do next.
Yeah, sounds
All right.
good.
Sounds good to me. Hope we can get Mel
All
on.
right.